Local man goes and makes first 4 SPs of his previously favored card. Hello, I'm not sure where I was going with this intro. Welcome. We're going to do the usual thing we do every month, which is going to take a look at some of these day 1 deck lists that people are building, and I guess I built too. Some of these with the community's help, some on my own. So we got basically quite a few decks that got supported, especially in the Bermuda Triangle area. You can build like 3 different decks, I think, just based on like the new stuff that got released, because you can kind of splash it into some of the older archetypes. And same goes for Angels, that the Breakout is very splashable into, like, you know, Shamsiel or something like that. But today we're going to focus purely on like the new archetypes, so stuff like Prisms, Jewel Knights, Celestials, as well as Magus. So let's take a look at these new decks, and the main one that I've been jamming so far has been Jewel Knights. They're one of my favorite archetypes in general, like I said before, from the Link Joker era, but I didn't expect them to be as fun, because the deck, in theory, on paper, you know, when you think about it, it's very much like, you know, superior calling, gaining power, gaining crit, you know, and that's basically it. But in Zero, it's actually been having some cool little interactions that, like, after I finished my stream on the day that the set released, I just kind of jammed ranked for like 4 hours without even realizing. I was like, wow, this deck is really fun. And like I spent like literally this entire second day wishing I could play some ranked, just to jam the deck more, but got pretty busy with work. So this is kind of the deck that I've been mostly playing. So this is Jewel Knights. So I'm actually pretty happy with this list. Like, some of these lists are gonna be like different from my deck and fights, or like, you know, I might not even do deck and fights of like Bermudas, for example, because I lack so much stuff for, or well, I like Labradors for Prisms. But for Jewel Knights, I'm actually pretty happy with this list. This might even be the final rendition, so let me explain why. Again, no fights in this video, but I'll spend a little bit more time on this one, just a tiny bit, just to talk about some of the cards and, you know, why I don't play some of the cards that you see in a lot of Japanese lists instead. So the starter I run is the 8k booster that becomes 8k when you have 4 more Jewel Knight rearguards, because basically you have 2 13k attackers, which are both Salome and the Julia. So this makes 21. She's a 14k attacker, so that's 22, so that's even better technically. And so that's pretty nice. You can also, if anything, put her behind Rear, and Palamedes will also swing for 21, which is pretty damn good. So I like her for that. The other starter, I think Tracy she's called, she's also pretty good because you can put 3k power on your boosters, and then when Julia does the multi-attack skill, you basically get to have 22k columns that attack for the 4th and 5th attack of that turn. So that's pretty good, but I just chose to, I've been running this and I've been liking it more. Jewel Knight PGs, because we do want Limit Break given to us. 2 Prismies, because sometimes these actually come in handy, because most of the Jewel Knight skills, except for Julia, call grade 1 Jewel Knights. So we sometimes want to actually search out Prismy to just, like, if we have too many grade 3s in hand, just drop them and draw into grade 2s, for example, or into PGs or something, or into more triggers. But, you know, so 2 Prismies, because you don't want to hit it too often, but often enough. Or like, you want to have the ability to search 1 or 2 per game. 4 of the 10k attacker, this one is actually very important, making 16k lines minimum with like your PGs or with the self-damager. The self-damager is a Jewel Knight, which means that you can search it with all your superior call abilities. This also means that if you don't draw the break ride and you have to ride Salome, and Salome is a good card that I do recommend running, because she's a 13k base with a crit on limit break. So basically you get to superior call when you would, like, you know, go for your grade 3 turn, you can search out self-damagers, and bam, you got your limit break while your opponent's on grade 2, smacking them with a crit just like MLB would, but without sucking up intercepts, which is actually nicer. Then we get to the grade 2s. Oh boy, the grade 2s, I was kind of shook at how good the grade 2s really are. So first things first, we have Tracy. So Tracy is a 12k attacker, but she's not a regular 12k attacker. Her skill says, and let's read it carefully, if you have 4 or more Jewel Knight rearguards, she gains plus 3k power. Not during your turn, during both turns. So this means that if you have a full field of Jewel Knights, she will be 12k, so the opponent has to boost to actually hit her. And then the second one will also be 12k, so they have to commit boosters. You're always asking them to commit cards from hand to the back row, and that's really, really nice. So this really surprised me how good it is, and so that's like an extra upgraded 12k attacker. Then Sybil is a nice, like, on-plays Counterboss 2, call a grade 1 Jewel Knight. Often I ride her and use her skill already, just to kind of like start filling up the board and getting that like advantage early, which is always nice. For some reason people like to rush Jewel Knights, so I'm like, okay, Sybil, call a grade 1 10k attacker, you know, and start going in. So Sybil is nice. I play her at 3. I first was planning to play her at 4, but then I carefully read Tilda. Tilda says, when your grade 3 Jewel Knight Vanguard is placed, you may Counterboss 1, and you may search your deck for any grade 1 or lower and call it. So first things first, this card can call any grade 1, so if you want to actually play like a not super Jewel Knight heavy build, you can actually run stuff like the Richard that like Soul Blast 1 to draw, for example, if you want to. Might even be worth teching in as a 1-of for the early game turns. But the one thing I realized with this was that at first I was like, oh well, this is kind of bad because she's a grade 2, so therefore her skill will never go off because she's intercepting. But then I was like, wait, you can just call her to the back row. And not only that, you can call 2 of them to the back row, meaning that you're going to get to, like, Ryan grade 3 and Catalyst 2 to search 2 cards, which is like, in 0 advantage terms, that's pretty damn good. So I was like, this is actually a really good card. What I often do, like, this is pretty tricky in the Narukami matchup because the Linchu can snipe her. But against most decks, I just put down 1 or 2 in the back row, attack with just the Vanguard, next turn ride Ashley, search 2 grade 1s. There we go, full field without committing much from hand to actually fill it up, and without committing too much Counterblast, so then I can still use my Counterblast for other plays later on. Whether that's like more superior calling with like the Sybil or the Salome, or, you know, the game-winning combo with Julia. So that was something. On top of that, we also have the 11k attacker Jewel Knight. So this was just there for like the Julia turns when you need to just have more powerful attackers to like finish up the game. So 11k is a good number. Therefore, we play 2 of him, but don't really need to play more of him. I think these ratios I really like. Like, I gotta say, I really like the ratios I'm running. Then for Ashley, she's the break ride. I already mentioned she's a 14k attacker on Vanguard Circle, and then when you break ride over her, your Vanguard gains plus 10k and a crit. The crit is pretty spicy, and on top of that, you can also call any Jewel Knight grade 1 from your deck. So that's also really nice because you, unfortunately, what you can't do is, what people thought you could do is like, if you have her in the back, and then you break ride over Ashley while you're at 3, and then you use this skill first to search a self-damager that the break ride skill will activate. That will not happen because, like, the check timing for riding up already passed by that time, so you won't get the break ride skill off if you break ride at 3 with the Tilda in the back. But Ashley gets to search out a grade 1 for free. That's a really good effect, and the extra crit is really nice because it works well with both of our grade 3 bosses here, and the Palomines you guys already know. So Salome, like, I'm going to be repeating a lot of these points in the deck and fight, so maybe I shouldn't be talking about this too long. But anyway, Salome, when she attacks on Limit Break 4, if you have 4 more Jewel Knight rearguards, she gains plus 2k and plus 1 crit. So, very easy condition. And then her other skill is Kalma's 2 search deck for any grade 1 or lower Jewel Knight. So, these 2 skills are great because it fills up your board, and on top of that, you often do get Counterblast starved at some points because, you know, maybe you used one Sybil too early or like something else, because you do want to be going a bit aggressive with making that field advantage, because Salome says, I'll gain the power without any counterblast anyway, and like this crit will sometimes just one-shot your opponent, or it'll just be continuous PG, you know, checks, and then eventually you can just finish it with Julia, for example, or just with Salome on her own. So Julia says, Limit Break 4, when she attacks the Vanguard, she gains the following skill. At the end of that battle, counterblast 2, and search your deck for Jewel Knights that are equal to the critical of this card and call them. So this card, she's a 10k base, but she gains plus 3k when she attacks the Vanguard on Vanguard Circle. But this card doesn't have to hit, and this card calls any Jewel Knight, so it can call grade 2s. So what you can do is break ride her over Ashley, and her critical becomes 2, so you can search 2 cards. So we'll go rearguard into rearguard, rearguard into rearguard, then Julia into Vanguard, attack finishes, Julia skill, call 2 new grade 2s, and then those standing boosters can still boost to attack for 4th and 5th attacks. That's really strong. That is genuinely very strong. Also, if you check a crit, as you can see I'm running 4 crits, my 4 SP Salomes, you get to also activate that even if you didn't break ride, so it's also very nice. The extra crits also really work out. This deck gets so much free advantage, like, not free, but gets a lot of advantage from its own skills that you basically actually get away with running crits. I'd even play a 5th one, to be honest, because they've been popping off and winning me games. Alright, it took a bit long on Jewel Knights, so that's really the only deck I've really been playing. The other one of these are kind of more like theory driven. So like, for example, here's Celestials. So of course the backbone of the deck. There's the Helm, but I feel like Zerakiel does a lot more. So Zerakiel's skill is, Limit Break 4 at the beginning of the battle phase, you may select a Celestial rearguard and put into the damage zone, and then select, if you did, select a Celestial from your damage zone and call to the same rearguard circle. Then, if you have a Zerakiel in your damage zone, whether it's face up or face down, for that turn gain the following ability, all of your units gain plus 3k power. So this got a buff and now gives everything plus 3, not just Celestials. She also has the skill to counterblast 2 to gain 5k, but this skill is really big because it gives a huge power bonus to your field, and we can do a lot with that. What we can do is we can use the Hermier. which lets us, when she attacks, she's basically an Alice. So when her attack hits a Vanguard, count +1, put it to the damage zone, call a non-Hermier card from the damage zone, and, call it to the rearguard circle. And so this is cool because with Zerakiel, Hermier is 13k power. And the thing that you will call from her skill will also gain that extra 3k power. So that's very nice. I'm also running 1 Calamity Flame, extra 2k every time you put something into damage. It's pretty alright. Of course, the Break Ride too. The Break Ride isn't super important in this deck, but it's nice to have. Oh wait, we got an SP. Let's show off the SP. So when you ride on top of her for that turn, your Vanguard gains +10k. Then you check the top 3 cards of your deck, put one of them into the damage zone, shuffle the rest into your deck, and then on top of that, you also get to exchange 1 card from your hand with a card in your damage zone. So it's a pretty nice ability. Basically just helps you set up, helps you find Zerakiel too if you haven't already, and on top of that, just kind of set up targets for like Hermier to call out, for example, and stuff like that. Keep in mind that Zerakiel, she has to call, like put in and call out Celestials, so you can't like select and call out Hermier, so you'll have to grab her, whether it's with like the no-CL or whether it's with like or whether it's with the Break Ride, so you gotta be careful with that. The Break Ride is very flexible, but Zerakiel is Celestial based in terms of the swap. Not in terms of the power, but in terms of the swap. Then on top of that, we're running basically one grade 2 no-CL and 1 grade 1 no-CL just to round off the clan ratios. Then on top of that, we're running, let's run through the grade 1s here. So we got the 10k attacker, because numbers. We got the 9k booster if you have a Zerakiel, which means you use a 12k booster if you have Zerakiel on Limit Break, which is really strong. So 12k boost, keep that in mind. We're going to come back to that. Then in grade 2s, we have the 10k Vanilla. She's a Celestial, so she's a good target to just slam into the damage zone like that. Then we also have the Sariel. Sariel's skill is pretty cool. So when you place her, you may count on +1 and search your deck for any card, put it into the damage zone, and then take 1 card from your damage zone and put it into the drop zone. So this is pretty cool because it lets you search out Zerakiel just straight up. In the future, she'll be good for like searching your like techs, like your random 1-ofs, 2-ofs, or whatever, from your deck into your damage zone. So that's gonna be really nice for like setting up whatever plays you want to do. So she also works, she's 8k base, but she also works when called by Zerakiel, so you can like put her in and call her out again to use the same skill twice in a turn, which is pretty cool. I'm running 4 12k attackers. Some people on stream criticize this, but the logic is that she is 12k. With Zerakiel, she's 15k, and then keep in mind that this is a 12k booster. 15 plus 12 is 27, which means that can hit over like either 3 damages that aren't triggers, or like 1 trigger damage, 1 non-trigger damage, or something like that, right? So basically, we want to be building our columns that are able to hit for huge numbers, because optimally our like optimal turn in this deck is Zerakiel for 13, swap, then whatever, and then this 27 that can, it's 4 attacks in a turn. You want that 27 to be able to hit over like whatever they throw at you. And so otherwise what it might be is like if they set up double intercept, you're going to go Vanguard into rear, another rear into rear, and then you're going to go Hermier into the Vanguard, then put the Hermier in, call the grade 2 12k attacker out, and then hit for like 27 or something. Or not necessarily that, but like, if they don't set up intercepts, this is like your optimal play. So keep that in mind. And yeah, that kind of covers this deck. So it's just it's good. It's pretty consistent so far. Like I played a couple games with it, but I definitely need to test this out more before I do a deck and fight. Then the last couple, we have the Magus. So Magus, I'm just missing 2 PGs. I will probably craft those actually, just kind of missing some materials. I don't want to waste my PG metals on those because I'd rather keep them for like, the clans I really want in the future, because I'm kind of running low now. But we got a lot of cards in Magus. So Magus is all based on basically like telling what the top card of your deck is. So in order to know what the top card of our deck is, we need to use stuff like the Circle Magus, who checks the top card. Then we also have the Crescent Magus, who says when she boosts, you declare 1 card name, and you do that by just like selecting the card like you would search your deck basically. And then you reveal the top card of your deck. If they match, she gains plus 3k power. So 9k booster, pretty good, especially with our boy Tim Tam. Then we have the 10k attacker, so just a Magus name, could be dropped, not sure on her yet. 3 12k attackers, you don't really need more. Then 4 Stellar Magus, on attack, count +1, declare a card name, reveal the top card of your deck. If the cards match, you add the revealed card to your hand. If they don't, you countercharge 1, so you basically refund the cost for her. So pretty nice, basically gets you a draw, because you basically know what the top card is, whether it's thanks to the Circle Magus' effect, or through something like the Briolette Magus. Briolette Magus says, Soul Blast 1, draw 1, and then put this card on the top of your deck. So that way you know that Briolette Magus is on top of your deck, and you got to draw a card from her skill, and then you're going to be redrawing the Briolette Magus with a skill such as, the Stellar Magus, or, something like that. Then other cards that help us set up, for example, the Break Ride, Hexagonal Magus. When you Break Ride over her, your Vanguard gains plus 10k, and you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, add one of them to your hand, put the rest on the top of your deck in any order. This way, you not only get to add a card to your hand, you also know what the next 2 cards are, so you can declare them and add them to your hand as well. Then we have Floral Magus. This is the Fighters Collection, Grade 3. Let me make 4 cost 1, declare a card name, reveal the top card of your deck. If they match, add the revealed card to your hand, and this unit gains plus 5k power. This card is pretty good simply because you can like spam this skill. So go cost 1, draw, cost 1, draw, cost 1, draw. So you can keep just like spamming it, and she becomes like 26 on her own. So that's very good on already because you can hit over defensives and stuff. So if your opponent doesn't have intercepts, this is kind of like the play you could go for. Her other skill is during your turn, if you have 2 or more cards in hand, she gains plus 3k. Then, last card is the Pentagonal Magus. Pentagonal says when she attacks the Vanguard, declare a card name and reveal the top card of your deck. If the cards match, then you add the revealed card to your hand, and for that battle, this unit gains plus 5k plus 1 crit. So, pretty good skill. Her second skill is also Counterblast 2 to gain 5k, basically Descendant, but it's a free extra crit, basically, and draw, so it's kind of nice. Not super, like, I don't know, game-changing, but still a pretty cool effect, and, you know, we can still run Toms on top of that to kind of have that finishing pressure with this deck, but we'll see how it actually performs when we get around to the deck and fight. The clan I probably will not be able to do is because I'm missing 3 Labradors, is Prisms. So Prisms are based on, like, bouncing stuff back to your hand and then recalling them all in the same battle phase, so that way you can get multi-attacks. So you have a lot of effects that work off of being bounced, and then you have effects that say like, oh, when you would bounce, then also bounce this. So for example, the starter says, when one of your rear guards would be bounced to your hand, you also bounce the starter back to hand too. Then on top of that, we have the Break Ride, which is the Vert. When she is ridden over at Limerick 4 for that turn, your Vanguard gains plus 10k and the following ability, and you also draw one. Following ability being, when the Vanguard attacks the opponent's Vanguard, you may bounce 2 of your rear guards back to your hand. So this is a very nice ability. Then her other skill is, during your turn, if you have 4 more rear guards, get plus 3k. So this is a really nice ability because this immediately sets up our Labrador with the starter. So Labrador says, when she attacks the Vanguard Limerick 4, you may call 3 cards from your hand to empty rearguard circles. If you called 3 Prisms, for that battle, this unit gains plus 10k plus 1 crit. So you get to bounce 2 cards with the Break Ride, and then the starter bounces itself back. So you bounce like an attacker, and then the starter takes itself back. So what you want to call is a booster, an attacker, and an attacker. And then on top of that, this gains an extra power and crit. So you get a PG check, and then you get 2 more swings after that. So again, a 5 attack deck. Seems pretty good. You gotta just make sure you Break Ride correctly. Second skill is once per turn, cost 1, bounce one of your rear guards back to hand. Why would we do that? Well, because we are running some cards that rely on bouncing. Now, I'm not actually running some of the best cards that rely on bouncing because, you know, there's stuff like the Karen that, like, on bounce, cost 1, draw a card. I might put that in later. I think if you want good Bermuda advice, you should hit up Loopville TCG. Arrow Tanks knows his stuff when it comes to Bermudas. So we're gonna, worst case when I do this, I'll probably get his advice on the list, and it probably will change a fair bit. So yeah, but we run 10k vanilla Prisms. So like, because she wants to call Prisms, I basically chose to run as much as possible full Prism deck. So Prism 10k attackers, Prism 12k attackers, Prism 11k attacker if you have a Limerick 4 unit. And then we got the Celt. When she is returned to hand, Soul Blast 1, giving the unit plus 4k. This way we can still break numbers after like doing all the bounces. Then, let's see. 1 Elk here. Elk is just like a Break Ride looper. So her skill is Limerick 4. When she attacks the Vanguard, she gains the following skill. At the end of that battle, you may put a grade 3 from your hand, write it as rest. If you did, take Elk from your soul and put it back to your hand. So what you do is, you take a Break Ride card, put it on the Vanguard circle, and then take Elk back, so next turn you can Break Ride over Elk again, and then use the skill again. So it's pretty good, it just loops Break Rides basically. Her other skill is, Vanguard circle when placed, Soul Blast 1, for that turn gain 5k power, and bounce one of your rearguards back to your hand. So, pretty versatile. She actually has a deck based on herself, so we might take a look at that at some point too. This is a Prism that is a 13k attacker when boosted. As you can see, I'm pretty desperate to play these Prisms. This is the special, 11k booster for Labrador. Then we have the 10k attacker, and then we have the when bounced Soul Blast 1, give another unit plus 4k. So just very heavy on the Prisms. Prism PG as well. So just went ham on Prism. Basically, this deck can definitely be improved. So this is just something for you guys to play with if you want to build up Prisms at the start, but definitely keep in mind that that list can be improved. But yeah, I think that kind of will do it for these deck one days. Oh my god, day one decks. I think I spent too much time maybe talking about Jewel Knights. I'll have a lot more to say when we do the deck and fight for that deck, because I'm very excited about it. Definitely a very, very fun deck. A lot more fun than expected. But yeah, so this set's feeling pretty good. I know a lot of people aren't too hot on it because it's very like waifu heavy set. So for the people that like dragons, knights, robots, you know, and everything else that isn't waifus, it's a little bit of a skip. So hopefully you guys can still enjoy the content though. There's some pretty fun stuff to be had. And yeah, on that note, that's gonna be it for today's video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.